This is Rating Descending,
where we watch IMDb's Worst 250 so you don't have to.
I'm Abigail Ward.
I'm Michelle St. Clair.
And tonight we're watching Recep Ivedik 4. Recep Ivedik coaches the children football team in his neighborhood. For the training, he uses the only free piece of land as football field on which he used to play football as a child. Recep notices sadly that this piece of land was sold to a businessman. Let's watch.
Abby, we got an email.
Uh-huh.
I'll read it out and then I'll show you. Hi, Abigail and Michelle. Ask and you shall receive. I just finished listening to your Pluto Nash app, realized I had a free-ish weekend, and heeded the call for fan art. I assume you always wear the same shirts as on your About page. That was in brackets. Honestly, I should have drawn some sooner. This was fun and RD rocks. Enjoy. Now I'm off to leave a review wherever I get my podcast and really make a difference. Best, Olivia. And
Olivia!
I'll show you the fan art now.
Oh my god!
It is us in, as she said, us in the outfits on our About page on our website, fighting a gigantic IMDb boss baby, notably in the void space behind IMDb boss baby's office.
This makes me want to cry pure tears of joy. It's so good. And the fucking reels of the IMDb in his mouth and around. This is amazing.
Now, I want to apologize to Olivia because I asked if we could share it and then didn't say anything for a little bit. That's because of both the delay between when we post and when we record, but also because I didn't want to post it on our socials and because I wanted to show you organically.
It is
to get your reaction. It's incredible.
It's the best.
It's so cool.
I love that we've got capes with our initials on them as well.
And also at the end she had said, P.S. does this mean I get to be an honored friend of the podcast? And
absolutely.
Absolutely. You have joined the illustrious ranks with Vira, Julian Leger, MR,
well, in a way,
any of the other illustrious, incredible friends of the podcast.
Exactly. I wouldn't say that they're a guest of the podcast. You're an honored friend of the podcast.
An honored friend of the podcast.
Yes, you're a HF.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're an HF, and you're an RDHF.
Olivia, you're an HF for making the IBB. That's IMDb Boss Baby.
If we ever had like a Reddit or a Discord or whatever, it's got to be called like Honored Friends, right?
Yes.
The HFs.
Yes. Honored friends.
I also specifically asked for this. Olivia said that she's not really on social media, but I wanted to be able to like share her art and tag her and stuff. So because we'll share this on our Twitter. I'll certainly share it on Instagram.
I will too.
You'll take a break. You'll actually emerge on Instagram.
I will, just for a second.
But she did say that her website, Olivia One Bernard, OLIVIA 1 BERNARD.com is where she has like more art and comics and little illustrations, and I went on it. It's great. She's got some really good drawings.
Olivia,
thank you so much for making this.
Oh my god, that is fantastic. You've made my week, Olivia.
You've made my month.
I can't wait to show everyone and be like, look at this thing, this silly piece of art.
So it made based off of like 3 different times that we just made shit up to be goofy.
Well, IMDb Boss Baby is our boss.
He is our boss. He holds our contract.
He makes us legally obligated.
Yeah, the law is we're
obliged.
legally and contractually obligated to do the podcast because IMDb Boss Baby came upon us at a crossroads in the middle of the night.
Strumming a guitar.
Yeah. And
that they had learnt from the devil themselves.
And we once went to challenge him and he trapped us in the void space behind his office.
Souls.
He took our souls. Yeah.
And the reason that we have to complete the list is to get our souls back.
Exactly. That's the law of the podcast.
That is the lore of the podcast.
One of the more lore-dense movie podcasts out there.
You know, everything that we say about our lives outside of this podcast, all made up. We don't have lives. We sit in the nether waiting each week for the new episode to drop.
Exactly.
Because we're one episode closer to getting our souls back.
We're not allowed to watch anything that isn't on the list. That's why we're so pleased every time it's good. You know?
I know.
We're like, holy shit.
We're treated to one movie a week.
Yeah.
And this is it. Well, sometimes that is the truth for me, to be honest. Life gets busy and I'm like, the one film I watched this week was the bad bad film for the podcast.
Yeah.
Makes me lose faith in film itself.
I get you. Nothing has made me want to quit my job more than this podcast.
Well, actually, speaking of wanting to quit jobs and quit podcasts, let's jump into Recep Ivedik 4 because...
Incredible pivot.
When I came in, I was like, man, when I was talking to you before we set up, I was like, I feel a bit flat, but it's probably because I watched Recep Ivedik 4, to be honest.
You texted me earlier today being like, how upset were you when you saw Recep had the nerve to be 120 minutes long?
I was horrified.
Yeah.
I saw 1 hour, 59 minutes, and I was like, what?
Well, you escaped the punishment of Recep Ivedik 3.
I did, because of my honeymoon. And that made it alone worth getting married. It was worth the cost of a wedding and a honeymoon.
You actually just got married to avoid doing Recep Ivedik 3.
I actually scheduled the honeymoon around Recep Ivedik 3.
Yeah.
To ensure I wouldn't be there.
Just to make sure. And instead inflicted it on other honoured friend of the podcast, Gaten Sousa.
Yes. Well, to anyone that hasn't, caught up on these episodes, we've watched Recep Ivedik 2.
Yes.
Did we have to watch 1?
We didn't have to, but we did.
I think we did, yeah.
Both of us did.
It was awful.
Our due diligence.
And then while I was away, Michelle and Gaten went over Recep Ivedik 3. Mm-hmm. And now we're on to the 4th one. And I mean, look, I'm going to just go straight to it. This is not going to be a surprise for later. We will have to do 5. We will have to do 5. Oh, God. Do we have to do 6 and 7?
No,
There's 7 of them. Actually, wait, 7 came out last year, so it won't be on the list.
I think 6 came out in 2020, so I don't think it's on.
No, 6 came out 2019.
Oh, I don't know if it is on the list. Maybe it didn't have enough reviews.
Fingers crossed.
But you know what?
I can't do more.
I can see myself getting bullied into doing it for like a bonus, but I don't know what. The bonus would just be like, hey guys, you did it. You made us feel bad.
But it would be like an exercise of masochism.
That's what I said.
It's self-harm. It's just like we're doing it because everyone will know how miserable we are.
That's what
it's like
exactly.
Flogging ourselves on the back.
It's almost exactly what I said in the Recep Ivedik 3 episode,
Really?
which is that this podcast is the listeners engaging in masochism and sadism.
Absolutely. The sadism is that they know we're going to come back next week and do it all over again for them. And here we are. And you know what? I haven't felt this low after watching one of these films. Maybe since we had to do spooky April.
Spookums in April.
Because we were like, we need something to get us through this horrible bombardment of really average horror films. Now, after Recep Ivedik, I was like, I'm back in that headspace, man. How will I get through? I was literally looking up things we could do during this podcast that weren't talking about Recep Ivedik 4. I was like, we could do quizzes together.
Google good content for podcasts.
Yeah, I was like, maybe we should do a quiz on Turkey together. And I was like, no.
The first time we did Recep Ivedik 2 is notable for both of us crying while watching it. And then 3 had Gaten Sousa 30 minutes into recording asked me how far we were in, and then when he realized it was only 30 minutes and not an hour 20 like he thought, he fell to his hands and knees.
Is that why you were watching it?
That's why we were watching it together. I said we would watch it together to ease the pain.
Yeah.
But yeah, he fell to his hands and knees.
Sometimes if you experience something with another person, it's worse because then you have to share in the pain of another person and your own. But if you're alone, you're just carrying the weight of your own sadness.
I also feel like when something like this, when you watch it with someone, you're kind of expecting it, even though you know it's bad. Like when you do like a fun bad movie watch, you're engaging in a playful thing. You kind of expect it to be fun anyway, and then it just isn't. So that you're sitting there in this tension of we should be having fun and we're not.
Yeah.
And this is making me miserable and I want to stop.
It's a tough watch and it's put me in a deep, dark place today. Let's just say that.
Now, can I offer a counter?
Sure.
I think this might be a controversial opinion. This is a Michelle hot take. I think that's because you didn't watch Recep Ivedik 3. Because in my mind, this might actually be an improvement.
So tell me what happened in Recep Ivedik 3.
In Recep Ivedik 3, to my memory, I watched it this year, but it's been a big year for Michelle, and not in positive ways.
No.
In Recep Ivedik 3, he's if I remember, there's part of it he's trying to get a girlfriend, but I'm pretty sure that's more the plot of 2. He has his like cousin, but I think more in that like very Mediterranean like family member, maybe second cousin, maybe third cousin, whatever, comes to town, comes to Istanbul and like has nowhere else to go, so she moves in, and then she's also going to uni, and so Recep is sort of like showing her his life and then he's trying to ingratiate himself with her life. That's sort of it.
And she's a family member.
Yes.
So he's not sexually harassing her like he does to every other
No,
woman?
I didn't say that.
Well, I'm asking now.
Well, as far as I remember, less than you'd expect, but I
Yeah.
don't think the number was 0.
Fucking hell.
But less than you'd think.
The tragedy of the Recep Ivedik films is that every time you see any young woman that is slightly attractive, you're like, well, she's going to get harassed by him at some point.
Yeah.
That's his character.
But like the first 3 movies all looked like they were bathed in piss.
Yeah.
And this one looks
Had like a normal color palette.
like a normal color palette.
Did.
Last one, Gaten and I spent a long time talking about how it had this really weird focal effect as if it was shot on really, really wide lenses, but with really, really shallow depth of field, which made
Yeah.
everything look like it was on a green screen. And we were talking about it the whole time of watching of like, is this on a green screen or not? It's hard to tell. And why would it be? Until we saw someone come from the back of the shot to the front and we're like, oh, this is just really weird lens choice.
Right.
This kind of didn't have as much of that.
Yeah, it looked fine, to be honest. Not the best, but it looked fine. I from memory, I remember Recep Ivedik 1, we were like, this is weird, but like there were a couple of moments where we were like, that's weird. It kind of made us laugh.
Yeah.
And then I remember Recep Ivedik 2 was nightmarish.
It was nightmare.
I think
It was
I fully
hellish.
disassociated while I was watching it. I have a lot of memories of him walking through the streets yelling at people. And I think I was just emotionally, mentally, physically, spiritually turning off. Yeah. I was like, I can't be here right now.
There is a spiritual tear in my soul, and it's caused by Recep Ivedik.
I experienced a spiritual death when I watched Recep Ivedik 2.
If you need like an ego death, something to realize that you have no place in this universe,
Forget
watch-
ketamine. Watch Recep
Watch
Ivedik. Because it was tough. It was a tough time. And I will say, watching it this time wasn't as tough.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
Not as tough.
It was a slight improvement.
This
It
is kind
still
of
wasn't
more
good.
like a movie.
Yeah, I mean, like the whole thing of like satirizing and making, playing with the idea of people. I mean, we'll get into the plot of it, and we should. But the premise of him being like on an island competing for prize money, you're kind of like, yeah, look, we do all watch shit like Survivor for this. Like, there's something inherently entertaining about two people competing.
It has the natural human drama of being a Survivor parody.
Yes,
And so,
yes.
like, it has a plot. The first 3, there's like nothing resembling a plot. It's barely a movie. This kind of has the loose structure of a movie, and it looks like one too. And there's at least one joke I laughed at.
Well, by making fun of something that we know works and is good, like a lot of these reality Survivor TV shows, they somehow managed to take a bit of that engagement and like the quality of the premise into the film. It made it better as a result. Well, let me just get into the film. I told you this before we started recording, and I mean it. I don't intend for this to be a long episode. All right? We've already given enough of our time. 2 hours of this one life we have on Earth, may I remind you.
To talking
Watching
about,
this.
not just
Not
watching.
including. So we're not going to spend a long time dabbling on this one, okay? This was directed by the same guy that did all of them, his name is Togan Gökbakar. He's the director, and he's the younger brother of Sarhan Gökbakar, who plays Recep. Mm-hmm. Just before I do the overview, I also wanted to say on Sahan, or Seyhan Gökbakar. After university, he tried his luck in some promo elections, and as a result was given the opportunity to make his own program. Because I was like, how the fuck did this guy get here?
Yeah.
He was allowed to make his own program on TV8, a Turkish satellite TV channel. His show was called Zibin, a Turkish word for very soft undershirt for a baby. The show received good ratings and was followed by another called Zoka, trap or bait. That's what it means. And finally, a show called Dikkat Sahan Kikabilir, which means watch out, Sahan may appear, which established him in a long line of nationally famous burlesque comedians.
What?
I don't know. Stretching back to the 19th century. But Sahan's humor is focused mainly on 21st century societal conventions governing Turkey's leisure and consumerist classes.
That's just so generous
And
as
the
a description.
ways in which they conflict with the views of the uneducated outsider who is often unaware of such conventions. So that was a small snippet of, I found so many essays on IMDb about this guy talking about what his humor style is, because he really is such a big star in Turkey.
Yeah.
There were paragraphs of poorly written text, likely because they were written in Turkish and then converted to English.
Yeah.
But just analyzing where his humor comes from and what it's like, what it's spearing, pinning. And I found that really fascinating. I'm like, people clearly have a high opinion of him, but also Turkey as a whole hate these films.
Well, but that's why I'm so curious, because I remember seeing some of this when I had to do the research for 2 and 3. Like the revenge I get for you missing 3 is you have to do the research for 4. You have to pull out new stuff.
Yeah.
And I remember seeing people seem to have a genuine opinion. He's not like, say, Adam Sandler before we saw him in Uncut Gems. I feel like people have a slightly different opinion, but like before, there's those American comedians who we go like, I don't really care for this style of humor or whatever.
Yeah.
He seems to have so much more like thoughts written about exactly what he's doing rather than just being roundly dismissed.
Yeah.
But which makes me go, is Recep Ivedik his like cash cow? Are the other ones actually good, or are they all like this?
Yes, it is his cash cow. He knows it will make him money.
Yeah.
And it does.
So his other... I don't feel like either of us have any intentions to watch it, but do you get the impression that his other stuff people think of as genuinely good?
Well, here's the thing. There isn't very much other stuff.
Right, okay.
It's really Recep Ivedik, and he first made an appearance in a film called Hen. And Hen was done by his brother as well. And Hen had really, really good reviews.
Okay.
And then they went into the Recep Ivedik series, which is based on his YouTube channel, like his YouTube character.
I remember, Yeah.
But no, everyone in Turkey seems to joke and is aware that it is just his absolute cash cow.
I mean, he's made 7 of them. It has to be that.
And the box office seems decent. So fair enough.
Didn't we find that like 2 was the best selling thing
like
in
that.
Turkey, only like beating Recep Ivedik 1?
Something like that.
Yeah.
And I read, I'd have to double check, so there's a couple of different sources, but I'm pretty sure in terms of, this is in US money converted from Turkish lira, I think this film made 34 million.
Oh my God.
Which is pretty good for a Turkish low budget.
That's enormous
film.
for a Turkish movie, yeah. Like if an Australian movie made 34 million, we'd go, holy shit.
So this is also just something I wanted to point out because I'd actually read it also about this. It wasn't like, it's not really trivia. It's just something I came across about the film. Apparently, Abdullah Yilmaz, president of the Youth Council for Gungoran District, the district of Istanbul where Recep Ivedik is portrayed as residing, once said, "We are uneasy that our district is being mentioned by a character like Ivedik. Gungoran is a district where educated and intellectual people live. It is not right to associate Gungoran with an impolite character who does not know any manners." He continued before stating that the council would take action to prevent the district from being mentioned in future film series. This poor guy is like, this whole thing is ruining our area's reputation, and it probably is, to be honest.
Yeah, because it feels like he's doing like a Jeff Foxworthy thing, like where American... Like, there's American comedians who denigrate the South, who are from the South, who think they're pumping it up, but it just, like, creates this weird reputation of, like, everyone from the South is, like, middle America, uneducated, rural hicks, and it's like, that's really, really narrowing a very broad range of people into one thing.
Yeah.
Fully.
Well, here's the overview. Recep is outraged when the football field he coaches kids on will be developed into flats by a businessman. Recep offers to outbid the man, promising to pay 300,000 lira to keep it, which would be like 164,000 in Australian dollars today.
Okay.
After trying to sell his organs and get a loan, he joins an island survival show to win the prize money instead. He's teamed up with people he sees as unfit or unattractive, which annoys him. After a bunch of shitty debacles that aren't worth reiterating, he wins.
That's fair.
The end.
It's pretty fair. Hey, you missed out on his whole friendship with what was the guy's name? Honestly, one of my two.
Serkan?
No. That's the guy he hates, right?
No.
Because there's Irfan, who's the host.
Yeah.
Who I did rate, despite it all, Irfan's a pretty good straight man.
Yeah.
I think he does a pretty good job at rebuffing Recep.
I like his cat shirts. He's always wearing like really cursed cat shirts, which I think is meant to be a joke. I don't know.
No, because there's the short guy that he saves from the shark, who then becomes his like best friend the whole time.
Yeah. Actually, I don't know that character's name.
It was like Halil or something. I'm not confident that that's what it is, but it has all of those letters in it.
Yeah.
It's hard because we're only looking at the subtitles, you know. But I kind of enjoyed that, like, they all hated Recep, but then Recep saves that guy from a shark, and then they're like best buds. He genuinely cared. Like, at the first elimination thing, he votes with Recep against the old guy and like gives him like a fist of solidarity. And I'm like, that's a good thing to put in a movie. That's fun flavor.
And don't get me wrong, there was a couple of scenes where I was like, well, actually, they're doing something semi-right. Like, there was that scene where they've got to throw the hammer through the different panels.
Yes.
And then, so when he's on this island, there's two teams, and there's this really built tank of a guy that is his main opponent because he's like the leader of the other team.
Or something.
Yeah. And they're competing against one another. They're like both teams of 6. And in Recep's team, they start off really badly. And then this girl comes up. Her name's Asilhan?
Oh, yeah, Asilhan, yeah.
Yeah, and she starts going really well.
Yeah.
And he's like, holy shit, we might have a chance to beat them. And then she starts failing, and she and like Recep start fighting because he's awful to her.
Yeah.
He loves to talk about how she's fat and an idiot. So she starts throwing really well, but they're fighting. And then because of how that, freaks her out, she starts throwing really badly and the other team win. And I was like, that is a very simple, like, classic, like, I was like, at least they did something right in that they started off badly, they almost did better, and then they failed because of Recep. I'm like, that's the tiniest hint of someone knows what they're doing.
It's a scene. This is what I mean. This is an improvement.
So it's just pulling at straws. I'm like, there was a scene where there was a hint that someone knew what they were doing. What's wrong? Where am I?
No,
what are we doing?
I am coming around to Recep Ivedik. I don't think it's good, but he's a character from like a medieval farce. He's a commedia dell'arte character.
Truly, he's
like,
the clown.
He's the clown.
Yeah.
He is like what you would see like in 1463.
Yeah.
The like jester has a play on, and then they're doing the like like big broad characters. That's what Recep Ivedik is.
100%. Where like his jokes don't always land or make sense, but the absurdity of them sometimes you're like, well, it's a very specific brand.
Yeah. The problem is translation to film. If he was out in the street at like with a few other performers, like doing that, like even his outfit, he looks like a puppet, he is Punch and Judy.
Dude, I mean, this is tangential, but hey, we've got the time in this episode.
I don't know. I could keep cooking with my theory.
Well, I don't know, Michelle. Let me warn you now that for my trivia, I have 0 items.
I know.
So
I know. I remember what Recep Ivedik 3 is. Did you?
I was gonna say, in terms of like, you just reminded me, you have lent me Robin Hobb's first book, The Assassin's Apprentice, and I've almost finished it. It's so good. It's so fantastic.
So great, right?
I want to read all of them. Yes. And there is that character of the Fool who I find really fascinating as a character because they seem so. That the way that the Fool is described is not like just someone in paint. It seems like they're a complete other race from a part of like Farsia that people haven't, not Farsia, sorry, it's called the Six Kingdoms, the Six Duchies.
Six Duchies,
yeah. That no one really knows about. He's got these like hollow eyes and strange pale skin, and no one really knows if he's a he or a she, even though they refer to him as he. It's very androgynous.
Let me tell you, the Fool in general smacks of gender.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. Gotta hide the wit in you. Like, I can see why queer people were like, it's an analogy.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
It's us. And holy shit. Anyway, like the Fool character in that is so creepy. It's made me rethink how sinister fools and jesters were in the court. I always thought there'd be something fun and jovial, but really now I'm like, no, they're actually incredibly creepy the way that clowns are.
Yeah.
Freak me out.
It's so great. Anyone who has already read the series, let's all collectively bookmark this moment for Abby to come back to as well. Because, without getting into too much, the Fool remains a character for a while.
Yeah. And look, I'll also say right off the bat, the bit where spoilers for book 1, everyone, but there's this bit where the Burek, who is like the fatherly character that takes in the bastard orphan main character, beats the shit out of Galen at the witness stones. And I fell so in love with Burek when I read that. And I just have a feeling something's going to happen to him because he's too pure, he's too good, and he's too much like a father for him to not die. And I'm really scared of finishing the book in case something happens.
What's incredible about Hobb's writing is the way that you had the same reaction I did of like, he's too pure. About what is such a flawed character.
Yes.
He's an alcoholic.
Yeah.
He's angry. He's mean all the time.
Like, he even admits, like, when the boy is just like, sometimes you hit me, and he's like, it's to jolt or to warn, but it's never to damage you. And you're like, Yeah, like that is, they're both right.
Yeah.
You know, like he does hit him, but it's never to hurt him.
And you also get the distinct impression from him saying things like that it's that sort of thing of like, you know, people reenact their own abuse.
Yeah.
This is a recurring theme in this series.
Yeah.
People reenact their own abuse. But that
Like
happened
the
to him.
cycles within families.
Yeah, the cycles within families, the cycles of abuse and how they spread to other families. That happened to him, and to him hitting not to injure is
an improvement.
That's him improving. That's him trying to break the cycle.
Yeah, and it's
like,
something you see all the time, you know, when parents are like, well, you know, my parents did a lot more like horrible things to me, and that means you can't criticize me for doing anything to you. And it's not true.
Because like it feels, in that way that we reenact abuse and stuff, it feels like predeterminism, and the way that fate plays into everything in that series is huge.
It's
like that small interpersonal predeterminism and the macro stuff comes into it later.
Oh, it's really, really
so
good. The
good.
character work is so strong. All the characters feel
all
really
character, you
real
know?
and vivid. Like everyone feels different in their own ways. And Patience is a character coming in. I love Patience. I think she's so. I love the way she goes, "You should have been mine," and then she like ran out of the room crying. Like I think there's great complexity and depth to the characters. It makes you feel warm and then also sad. And I feel like the Fool is such an interesting ally that the main character has, and you don't really know why.
Yeah.
There's that bit where he tells Chade the Fool spoke to him, and Chade's like, "The Fool spoke to you?" And I think he says some gibberish like "fits fools fats on the stacks," and he's like, "What?"
Yeah.
And he stops and he's like, "Oh, fits fools fats on the stacks," and he's like, "I don't get it," and he's like, "Yep." Like the Fool is great. It's got great humor. I love it. And also I love Robin Hobb herself. Have you stalked her on Instagram?
Yes.
Holy shit, it's so wholesome. She just lives on her like Washington farm with her dogs and her cats, and all of her posts are like, "Look at how these flowers grew today." And I'm like, you have an idyllic life, motherfucker. I love that for you.
It's so many segments of the series, in particular what is, I think, the 7th book, the first of the 3rd trilogy, which is the Tawny Man trilogy. So much of it is like just an ode to that kind of simple living, and also the ways you both can, and also the reasons that you can't always have it. It's incredible.
I would like to ask you, so to anyone listening that is confused, obviously, like it's just a series of fantasy books. I'm reading the first one out of like the 15 that there are in this whole world or series or whatever. There's like 5 trilogies, right?
Well, one's technically 4, so I think it's 16 total.
Right.
One's 4, but they're each shorter than normal.
Okay. Well, in this 5 sets, I'm obviously on the first one. My friend Lauren, who has asked me to read Robin Hobb for years, and it wasn't just like, it was like, I want to read it for you, but I also really want to read it for Lauren because she's been begging me to read it since 2013, 10 years ago. Yeah. She even lent me a copy of one of the books. It might even be The Assassin's Apprentice, and I just have kept it in my bookshelf all these years. Like I might have it still. Anyway, she says that her favorite of the sets is the Live Ship Traders. Which one's yours?
So I think like it's interesting. I think she's almost right in the sense that I've only read the first 3 of the sets. I've just finished a different series and probably going to jump back and read the 4th of them. But there's a good case we made for the Live Ship Traders being the best ones. I went in not thinking I'd be interested because it's more like almost like piratey colonial vibes, and like I don't care about that as much. There's so much more to it. The character work is beautiful that it draws you in, and it's a great point of evidence of like why they work as distinct series and also inform each other, because certain aspects of the setup of it are so directly informed by the end of the first 3. Yeah. While even though it's in a totally different location.
Well, can I ask, and I don't think this is really spoilers, I would just like to know, Fitz is the main character of the first 3, right? Is he still the main character of the next set of the Live Ship Traders?
Without getting into any of the other sets, he isn't of the Live Ship Traders. So Live Ship Traders and the 4th set, Rainwild Chronicles, are both set in like a different area of the world. Like there's Bingtown is in like the southwest of the map that you see at the front. They're set in that area.
So it's not about Fitz.
Well, without saying whether it's about Fitz or whether it's about whoever, the 3rd and 5th are in the 6 duchies.
Okay. Is it like characters that are introduced in the first set? Is it about Burek?
I'll say like it's set like 20 years later or something. Like
Okay.
the entire of the series sets within within at
And
least
look,
one person's lifespan.
I am kind of hoping that because I love the idea of being like their characters being able to reflect on a character
Yeah.
you've read about, blah blah blah. But I love Fitz and I'm dedicated to him, and I just want to state, I want to put on the record right now,
Mm-hmm.
if Burek dies, I'll kill myself. I'll be gone by next episode.
You heard it here, folks.
So if I come back next week and I'm fully crying, you've got some shit to answer for because you lent me this book.
Knowing that you don't interact as much on social media and don't have the same compulsion I do to look things up in a way that would spoil it, all I'm doing is just trying to set up so you can read it as organically as possible.
Okay.
So I won't comment either way, and that doesn't mean it's negative, nor does it mean it's positive.
It is true, because I'm like, I shouldn't know these things. I should pretend like it's coming out and no one knows anything, you know? Like just... Yeah,
but
I'm not
I'll just say
ruin
as well,
it for
I
myself.
love Burek.
Burek
And I think,
is just, oh.
I think you'll be happy with, like I said, the third trilogy is my favorite, actually. Like, even though I think Live Ship Traders I adored, as soon as I finished, I was like, I loved that more than I thought I would. This is some of my favorite books ever. It's almost like one long thing. It's incredible. The third set just has some specifics in it that just moved me so much. Like, just moved me to tears, not because it was sad, just because it was beautiful.
Yeah.
So I really, really loved it.
Okay. I'm really excited. I have that like nice excitement of knowing I'm at the beginning of something really good.
Yeah.
You know, like when you've just finished a show and you're showing it to your friend and you're thinking, fuck, I wish I'd never seen it before. Like I wish I was them. I know that I'm that person right now.
And the next book, because the Assassin's Apprentice is kind of slim compared to the rest of them. Almost because it's like half of the rest of them in a way that, like, because they have this interesting, almost episodic structure. The next book has so much happened, but it always remains so character driven that it doesn't always feel like so much is happening. And then whenever I reflect on it, I'm like, geez, that's like a whole fucking trilogy in and of itself.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. She's really not afraid to just like make negative consequences happen now.
Yeah.
She's not holding on to them.
Oh, fully. The fact that Chivalry died,
Yeah.
I didn't expect that at all. I really thought she was leading up to a big storyline about chivalry versus shrewd or chivalry versus regal. And when they're just like, chivalry's dead, I was like, what?
Yeah.
Well, like in chapter 4 or 5. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
What? His dad just died. So yeah, I feel like she's not someone to pull punches.
No.
Yeah. Yeah.
She's really not one to pull punches. Let me tell you that.
She's gonna Ned Stark me. She's gonna kill Burek. I can feel it in my bones.
She's gonna really hurt your feelings.
Does she kill Burek?
I'm gonna tell you right now. I'm not telling you, but she's not gonna hurt you in the George R. R. Martin way. The George R. R. Martin method is to just kill everyone off.
Yeah.
You know, but that's not as hurtful. You know, someone dying, that's tragic.
Yeah.
Someone having to live despite it hurts more sometimes.
Fuck. Also, what I love about Robin Hobb and what I found so magical, I'm so happy now that we're talking about something good rather than something shit for once. Something that I love about Robin Hobb as well when I was reading about her is that she grew up in Alaska and she married this fisherman very young and they had like 4 kids together. So she was a mum when she started writing, and she was like, the only way I managed to do it was like between putting a kid down for a nap and between errands, before bed, as soon as I would wake up, just any spare moment I had to myself, I would spend it writing. She'd be like, my kid would be taking a bath and I'd be there supervising them, writing a book at the same time. And I'm like, that is just how women have to do it, isn't it? A woman never gets a room of her own.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
When I hear things like that, it makes me go like, man, I used to do stuff like that, and now I just look at my phone. I got to find a way to stop looking at my phone so much. When I was a kid,
all I wrote was fantasy stories.
Yeah.
And like most of them, when I started off, they'd be like 10 pages long, and then there would be 40 pages long, and then I'd write 100-page fantasy stories, and they kept getting longer, and I loved it. Like I had nothing else to do as a kid, and I would like handwrite it, and then I have all these like beautiful short stories there, and I still write things, but it's amazing how much of your time is eaten into by things that actually don't matter.
Yeah.
Don't make you very happy.
Yeah, I know. I mean, this is harder for me to talk about, but I used to draw so much as a kid as well. I used to absolutely love it. And for a variety of reasons, including a very vicious art teacher and just other people in my life being not super great. Now I find it so hard emotionally to draw in a way that I know I probably could have moved past if I wasn't instead finding it just easier to do something else, like look at my phone. You know, it's like we're iPad kidding ourselves. you know?
Have you ever thought about maybe doing like drawing lessons?
I have thought
And
about
that way
it.
you can be like, I'm here to learn. And like I used to be able to, but I can't anymore. And I really want to get back to it. And then
I have
someone
thought
can
about it.
look at you and be like, all right, I can help you.
Yeah, it's
Let's
just
do it.
the thing is most lessons like that cost money.
Yeah, they do.
And that's a tricky thing. That's
They
a tricky
do.
thing. They get you that way, you know? Those things, the goods and services, they really get you that way by costing money.
True.
Cheeky,
Maybe we
cheeky.
should go back to the movie.
I think we should. Look, to keep it positive though.
Yeah?
One bit that made me genuinely at least snort, like truly, genuinely, organically, was when he went to get a loan. And he's talking to the loan lady, and like most of the conversation is like what it
I
is.
thought the loan scene was good.
Yeah,
I actually
right?
thought it was good. It kept me
Especially
engaged the whole time.
The bit where he makes the tactical decision to pivot, because at first he's just like arguing with her of like, this is a personal loan, and they're like, she's like, I can't give you a personal loan this
Yeah.
big, and she's like, I need a loan this big. What do you mean? He then like changes tactic and like it assumes that he can like cut a secret deal, and
Yeah,
he
he
starts
tries
doing
to
this
bribe
whisper.
her.
He's like. Tss, 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 tss. And then like she's so
She's like, "What?"
confused,
and then he
leaning
like
in.
stops and he reaches under the table and he's like, I have to check for bugs.
It's like an It's Always Sunny bit.
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
That made
I
me
thought that was
laugh.
funny.
That was funny.
It was.
This,
And then-
this is an improvement. He's
Yeah.
getting better.
100. I actually thought that scene was really fun. I was like, the quick editing and bouncing off each other was really fun.
Yeah.
And then also there was a bit later, much later in the film, when one of the girls on the opposing team has to leave and he gets up and hugs her and he literally like flings her around while he's hugging her and her legs
Yeah,
are flailing.
that's
And it's
right.
inexplicable. There's no reason for it. And I just thought it was so silly. I laughed.
Yeah.
Like sometimes the innocent dumb shit he does is really funny. And like, I guess like it's
Him being good at the games, by the way, is a good creative
like
choice.
the limbo.
Yeah.
The limbo, him actually being incredibly good at it despite he's
Yes.
enormous.
That was
Yeah.
really fun. And him catching the, like, he's
Yeah.
really good at all the games, and that's much funnier than him being really bad at all of them.
Yeah.
That's way funnier.
It is. There's some things they do right. And in a lot of the things that I read, a lot of people were like, to be honest, like, there's a lot of people from Turkey that are like, we like the films, but we fully understand that it's just a cultural difference in humor and that
Yeah.
we find it funnier here than people would in America.
Yeah.
And I find that so fascinating because I'm like, I think that's probably true. And I wonder what it is because we make dumb shit all the time, but we almost understand where the dumb shit's coming from. Whereas sometimes I watch Recep Ivedik and I'm like, I don't feel like I understand the reference or I don't feel like I understand the comedic timing. And I think it's just cultural.
I think there's a certain amount of that is, you know, whenever we've made an Australian thing that is sort of lowbrow humor, people defend it by going, it's uniquely Australian, and usually that's not the case. Americans find Kath and Kim funny, but they probably wouldn't find it as funny as us because of some of the
they
cultural
did try and
specificity.
remake it, I guess, but I don't. They didn't.
But they
seem to
didn't get it.
Yeah,
they didn't get it.
It was such a flop.
Exactly. And so like there is a certain element of like in something like Veep or whatever, I think even though it feels more culturally specific, the way it's intellectual actually means I think it's less culturally specific. And so you get all of those things exported more easily. Farce, which Kath and Kim is smart, but it is farcical, is culturally specific because it's usually about the cultural woes that are specific to around you, you know?
Yeah. I mean, they were. It's funny. I love Kath and Kim, and we were talking about this with Mel, where I was saying,
that's
do you
right.
think that the humor of Kath and Kim was quite classist? And Mel said that, you know, like they didn't feel that way. But I sometimes I look at it, I'm like, there is a touch of it, but also it never goes too far. Like I feel like they make this joke about like Kel reads Bryce Courtney, and the joke is just that idiots would read Bryce Courtney, and really that's making fun of Bryce Courtney. But it is this classist thing of there's surely some people that would watch it and then they'd be like, well, I read Bryce Courtney. What does that mean?
Yeah.
You know? So, but it doesn't. I mean, it was still relevant, and I think they were more exploring the really negative side of their personalities more than anything. The fact that Kim was selfish and horrible, and the fact that like Kath was really judgmental of her daughter. Like that's. We don't need to go into all the specifics of Kath and Kim.
There's some episodes of It's Always Sunny that are specifically about how they're white trash.
Yeah.
That
yeah.
like are funny, but I'm like, I bet this would be funnier if I was from rural Pennsylvania.
For sure.
For sure.
For sure. Even like down to costume choices.
Yeah.
It's like we watch it and we're like, well, they look like Americans, but I'm sure if you were from Philly, you'd be like, oh, I know where they're supposed to
I know
shop
that exact
from.
kind of fucking guy.
Yeah. Oh, dude, for some reason, I've been, when I've been like watching or having to get shit done, I've been putting on the Celebrity Amazing Race, and I've never watched The Amazing Race ever. Ever. Not in my life.
Such a funny choice.
And for some reason, I was like, let's just put it. Okay, look, I put it on because I knew there was a couple of celebrities in it that I wanted to see. And that was one of them was Jackie and Ben Gillies. Ben Gillies is the drummer from Silverchair, and Jackie is a Real Housewife of Melbourne. They're a couple.
God.
I love them. They were in it. And also, someone that was in it was the guy who plays Brett from Kath and Kim.
Oh.
Pete Rosethorn.
Yes.
With his daughter, Frankie. And holy
fun.
shit, he and her just have the best vibes. He's there having a great time, being like,
sweet.
where are we going to go, Frankie? And like they're running around and he's just there to enjoy himself. They never take it too
sweet.
seriously or get too competitive. And I'm like, oh, turns out Brett from Kath and Kim in real life is the best guy. You can tell.
I still think one of my favorite jokes from the whole show is it at their fucking like wedding reception?
You're as cold as ice.
He's like, Kim, this song is dedicated to you, and then he starts singing, "You're as cold as ice," and it's so funny.
It's so good. It is such a good show. It is.
It's a good show.
You know,
This
on the
is
way
not
to
a good movie.
Blackwood, on the way to Blackwood where I got married, that windmill that Kim works at for a while is on the way. I was driving there and I was like, holy shit, that's the windmill that Kim works at in like season 3 of Kath and Kim. I had a real moment.
So specific.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah, this film sucks. Do you want to hear some trivia?
Yes, please.
IMDb trivia.
Cool, I've got none. Do you
Yeah.
want to hear some reviews?
Yes.
Great.
Reviews.
You know, for Recep Ivedik 3, I just read out some existential statements. I think that was funnier.
What I was thinking of doing at some point in this was to read out a list of things I could have done today instead of watching Recep Ivedik 2, like 4. That would have gone for roughly 2 hours. Like I could have, played with my cats or groomed my cats or made a hot chocolate. I could have gone out and touched grass, but I thought that was petty. So I thought I'd just mention it in passing. Here's some reviews. There's no real critic review on Rotten Tomatoes that I could pull. There's only audience reviews. And the audience reviews were like 45%. And I was like, no.
I couldn't even find them in Turkish.
No. Can't really find any critic reviews that I could easily translate, but I have got some IMDb reviews. Well, I've got 4, and that's 4 out of the 10 that exist for this film. We're working with 10 reviews in total.
10 written reviews.
10 written reviews, exactly. Otherwise, it wouldn't be on the list.
Yeah.
I'll start from the best, and I'll go back to the worst. Here's a 10 out of 10 review left by Mora Dozjan in 2018 called I Love All Recep Ivedik. I love Recep Ivedik movies. From 1 to the 5th one, it is hilariously funny. This character is real, and he exists in every country. Sad face. 10 out of 10. Don't know why it ended on a sad note.
It's really ominous.
I know. They exist in every country.
Sad.
And also, like, I didn't want to choose reviews where it was clearly written by someone in Turkish and then it was just... It's like, that's not fun. Here is a review that is 9 out of 10 left by HRISITO. Don't even know how to say it. Great Balkan Humor is the name of it. Oh. This movie contains a lot of fun moment and humor specific for the Balkan countries. Recep Ivedik is strong and tough, a man of his word. Sometimes he's a little silly, but very honest and even likable. His harsh tone is very typical for the country. What makes it so fun is that Recep is actually right with everything he said.
Whoa.
That's a big claim.
What the fuck?
I wouldn't go that far. The way he achieves his goals is hilarious. There is nothing impossible for him. To understand the movie, you should be familiar with the Balkans' manners and customs. Some people get offended of the rough attitude of the main character, but as you watch more movies with Balkan humor, as normal this will appear to you. Enjoy the great movie. 10 out of 10. Oh, 9 out of 10.
Does Turkey count as the Balkans? I guess Istanbul
I didn't think it did, but
I know the Ottomans ruled the Balkans.
Yeah, I don't know.
And yeah,
Look,
Istanbul.
I don't question it. I'm not from there.
Yeah. It's not my place.
It's really genuinely not. Here's a 1 out of 10 review left by Khan26 called Bad Film. I love that they get straight to the point.
Yeah.
Recep Ivedik is bad movie. This film, was shot just to make money. This film had been omitted to a silly way to make people laugh. The screenplay and editing of the film is very poor. The film, the worst comedies in Turkey. I would not recommend this movie. This film, shameful disgrace. Not even funny, but also a silly movie. Really funny if you're Turk, but also worst movie I watched in my life. 1 out of 10. And here's another 1 out of 10 review left by Guilty James called Everything Wrong with Turkish Cinema, which is fascinating because I actually know zero about Turkish cinema except this film, so I'd love to see some insight. Recep Ivedik is an example of cinematic parasitism. It is a product created solely to profit from as many people as possible by providing as little content as possible. Outliving the sympathy generated by its humble beginnings, this series has become stale, endlessly recycling the same subject matter of a once lovable crude protagonist against the elite intelligentsia of the country. A mixture of slapstick and juvenile scat humor, it accomplishes nothing in the realm of comedy. A crude, cheaply filmed waste of time, which is a shame considering the brave and creative strides Turkish filmmaking has taken in its recent years. Technically embarrassing. This is one of the technically embarrassing hurts for some reason. Like, I feel like I'd be like, ow. This is one of those rare films which actually takes an entire cinema industry backwards in progress. 1 out of 10. That was Guilty James's review. Michelle, what was your review of Recep Ivedik for?
Yeah, I mean, look, as we said, allegedly this is more specific to Turkish humor, but I also feel like we got similar things about like Ra1 and Thugs of Hindostan and those sentiments of like, I would get it if I was Indian, but then also a lot of Indian critics are like, but this is not very good though.
Yeah, but there was so much to like about those two
Well,
films.
yeah, they were charming. They were like the Marvel movies
of
India, but without the fatigue.
Thugs of Hindostan was epic.
It was.
Or actually, they call it Turks of Kyrgyzstan, I believe. That's
true.
the alternate
Well,
title.
that's Recep Ivedik in Turks of Kyrgyzstan. Yeah. I literally just double checked what I gave. I can't remember what I gave Recep Ivedik 3. We gave Recep Ivedik 2. One of us gave it 1.5 and the other 1.7. I do stand by. I think this was an improvement. So I'm going to give it, at the very least, the minimum we give Like a Movie 2.
2.
This is a 2.
You know what? You're right.
Yeah.
And I don't want to give this film any more of my time. I give it a 2 as well. Well, that was Recep Ivedik 4, guys. You can find us on social media. We're on TikTok under we're on Twitter or X under Rate Descend Pod. Let me start again.
You get this.
We're on Twitter or X as Rate Descend Pod. We're on TikTok at Rating Descending, or you can email us at ratingdescending@gmail.com.
Yeah, send us any sort of emails you want. Send us fan art, you know.
Let us go.
Sorry. You can also find us on our own socials. You can find, and I'm gonna do my plugs again. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Michelle.St. You can find Unerased on Instagram at -18youth or TikTok at unerased.tv. Also, go check out, I keep forgetting to plug this one, on Moldoga's YouTube channel. She's on TikTok as well. Check out her boyfriend music video that I cut as well.
Moldoga's so funny.
Yeah, she is very funny.
Boyfriend.
Yeah, I cut the music video for
I know.
that. Yeah.
It's so good.
As well as, I can't remember the other plugs, and we gotta get out of here. It's such a, I'm so proud of that music video. I think it really came together really well, and I think it looks gorgeous, and she's very funny.
Yeah. And don't find me anywhere.
That's true. You have taken the stance recently.
We'll have to change this ending a bit.
And you know what? Be like Olivia and go leave us a review so you can really make a difference.
Thank you, Olivia.
Wherever you get your podcasts.
Yeah, you're the best, Olivia.
You're the best, Olivia.
I love you, Olivia.
I love you.
Good night.
Good night.
Oh, so wait, what are we watching next week, Michelle?
Well, next week we're watching Piranha 3DD.
Ooh.
Double D's with them
Ds.
ranas at you.
Oh, God.
Check out them ranas, baby.
Goodbye. We're out of here. We're out.